Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Chris Johnston is going to join us now from TSN Hockey and The Athletic. And just looking at his Twitter account yesterday, getting ready for this interview, Rick, Chris is ahead of the curve over a lot of people, most people, when it comes to looking ahead to the NHL trade deadline. Very, very impressive. You want to check it out if you're a hockey fan.
Very good account.
And Chris joins us now again from TSN Hockey and The Athletic. Chris, thanks so much for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Counting down the minutes until Friday afternoon here, Eastern time.
Yeah, I can't imagine how busy you are, and we can't thank you enough. Now, you tweeted out something regarding this yesterday, and we appreciate that, Chris. But what can you tell us about the possibility of the Canucks unloading Elias Lindholm to Boston in order to land Jake Guentzel?
Well, I certainly still think it's a possibility. And you know, you guys will be aware of this watching the team closely. I don't think the fit has been quite perfect. And obviously the Canucks are in a mode where this is an important trade deadline. It's been a great season, and I think that they're considering a lot of different options at this point in time. You know, we also have sort of unique market conditions, I'd say, league-wide. There really are not a lot of centermen available on the market. You know, one of them that is Adam Henrique in Anaheim, and it sounds like a deal might be going down as we speak right now that would send him to Edmonton. And so, you know, a team like the Bruins is looking around and saying, I mean, why wouldn't we do this? I mean, very strange. I can't think of an instance, and I asked a few people in my network today if they can, of potentially a player being bought before the deadline and sold at the same deadline. But, you know, that remains a possibility here. And, you know, part of it too, Elias Lindholm doesn't have any trade protection in his contract. And so, you know, he's kind of a perfect storm of things that I think have at least made this a possibility. And, you know, a lot of it hinges, I think, on where things ends up with Jake Guentzel, and that market remains a little bit murky to me. I'm not sure exactly where the Guentzel talks stand right now with Pittsburgh and the teams that are calling on him.
And you go back to the offseason, they've done very well this season, but there were the issues at center ice with Boston losing Krejci and Bergeron, so it would make sense. Okay, Jake Guentzel, we know the Canucks are interested, maybe Carolina. Who else is in the mix, Chris?
Well, I don't think the market is as frothy as we might have expected. I mean, obviously, this is a player that's on top of a lot of the trade boards out there. You know, is pretty accomplished, you know, playing beside Sidney Crosby and has a great playoff resume. But, you know, because he's a rental, because of what the Penguins want, I think teams like Vancouver still have some trepidation about that price. You know, Vegas is still looking for another forward even after adding Anthony Mantha on Tuesday night. But I'm not sure the price is where they want. I mean, Carolina, I don't know if they're in this, if they're getting Guentzel as a rental player. And so maybe that's where this turns, if perhaps, you know, Guentzel is willing to look at signing an extension as part of a contract, which, you know, I was told as of yesterday afternoon was not really an element in this specific round of talks, but, you know, things move pretty quickly this time of year. So, you know, those are among the teams. I don't know if there's a surprise team out there. And I think that's part of the challenge that Kyle Dubas is working through as a Penguins GM and president is, you know, this is a very important trade for that organization in particular. They have not been sellers since Sidney Crosby's rookie year. And what they're trying to achieve in a Guentzel deal is getting players that are younger that can step into the lineup as soon as maybe this week, but certainly by next season and help the Penguins in the short term. So this isn't a traditional trade your rental for, you know, picks and, you know, kick the can down the road. I think that the Penguins are trying to achieve something specific in this trade, and I'm not sure it's come together for them just yet.
One thing we've learned out here with Jim Rutherford, expect the unexpected, Chris. Are you hearing they are very aggressive right now? Like, I mean, anything out there, like just in terms of them being overly aggressive right now?
Absolutely. I mean, it's never boring to cover a Jim Rutherford team, right?
I'll say that again.
If you look over the years, you know, this guy is, you know, he's been a wheeler and dealer, and obviously he's maybe not hands-on every day with Patrick Allvin as his general manager, but you know, Vancouver does seem to be aggressive. I've heard them even again this morning connected to Jason Zucker as a possibility. You know, I think that they're like a lot of teams. There's only really a few aggressive buying teams, I would say, and Vancouver's in that mix. And so, you know, I think it's smart when the market might, you know, end up when we see how the next 2 days go, end up drifting towards the buyers. I mean, why not see exactly what the prices are keep tabs on everyone, and then make the best decision for what assets you have to sell. But, certainly doesn't seem as though this deadline will pass quietly in Vancouver. If it does, it won't be for lack of trying, because, my impression is the Canucks really are trying to upgrade that forward group in particular right now.
Chris, one of the most popular guys on the market right now, I think, is Tyler Toffoli. Everybody really likes him a lot, including out in Vancouver. What is going to happen there? A re-sign, or is he going to hit that market here soon?
It's one of those, a little bit of a walk in the danger line. There's been talks as recently as yesterday, I believe, on a Toffoli extension. The Devils had wanted to see how they'd come through and end up losing a game last night. They got one more before Friday, but wanted to leave as much room and window to make that decision. From speaking to some other teams not directly involved with this, the feeling is that they don't think Toffoli's going to move, but the Devils have not ruled it out, and perhaps we get to Friday, and if the extension doesn't come together, I think that the issue there has been term. With New Jersey not wanting to give too long of a term to a player, in his early 30s. Maybe they do pivot and sell him. So at this point in time, I'd say Toffoli isn't officially available, but certainly teams have continued to call New Jersey. And I think, it's becoming a little bit clear, even though they've just made the coaching change and put Travis Green behind the bench on an interim head coaching basis, that this is likely not going to be a playoff season for the Devils. A lot of things went wrong for them there, a lot of injury issues and the like. And, maybe when the dust settles, the best decision for Tom Fitzgerald is to trade Tyler Toffoli. And I'm with you. I think, given, how sparse the market is at forwards, and with some of them coming off the board already here, they could probably get a nice return for him if they end up going down that path.
Talking with Chris Johnston. Chris, Jacob Markstrom, ex-Canuck, now in Calgary. What's in his future? I know there's a lot of trade talk surrounding him, and you mentioned the Devils, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and I think the Devils would still love to make that trade today, even knowing that the playoffs are a long shot, because he's got 2 years on his deal beyond this one, and they like the idea of adding the player for the bulk of the term. My sense is that Calgary is not going to do it unless something really changes drastically between now and the deadline. That team has strung together some wins. I know they lost to Seattle the other night, but they've kind of remained on the fringes of the playoff performance. And let's face it, the market is limited when you're making a trade like that in season. And there aren't a lot of Jacob Markstroms out there. What I see is, even among some of the top teams in the league, there's a lot of question marks with the goaltending. Some teams managed to cobble it together with tandems, but Markstrom is, among a small handful of players that you can count on to start a lot of games, to win a lot of those games, give you a reasonably consistent performance at what is not always the most consistent position in terms of results. And, I think the Flames, if they end up moving him, will probably look at that in the offseason when they're going to have more choices out there and perhaps have a better market in terms of, driving up what they get back in return.
Chris, you are so busy, and we can't thank you enough for doing this for us. Looks like you're in the bowels of some arena right now, as a matter of fact, doing your job. So, again, we appreciate it so much. Yeah,
I don't have as good a backdrop as Freege does usually when he does your show.
Oh, yeah.
But your hair looks a lot better.
But your hair is better.
It's because I own a comb, unlike
Yeah, we're sending one his way. Thanks, Chris.
Perfect.
Okay,
see you guys.
Appreciate it.